A book about real estate written for the private equity fund manager. Finally, coming up. One of the things you struggle with a bit as a private equity fund manager is how you really fit real estate into your investment strategy. Generally, investing purely in real estate is something for specialized funds, but quite a few PE funds do end up owning pieces of real estate. And typically, if you're a mid-cap fund manager, you're not specifically investing in real estate, but you may invest in something which has the effect of making you own quite a piece of real estate. An example of this could be you invest in a school and you end up owning the buildings, or you invest in a factory, you end up owning some extra land, and various other types of things like that. So you'll end up investing and then owning bits of land and real estate, which you then have to deal with. And in some cases, according to your investment strategy, it may be quite okay to continue to hold it on the balance sheet, but in other cases, you might want to dispose of it or to sell it and lease it back, because your investment strategy may be to invest in a business, a consumer business, and not in a lot of underlying real estate, which you inherit or you have to buy along with the company. So understanding real estate as part of any investment strategy is quite useful for any fund manager. Now, when coming to talk about real estate, it's quite a different asset class than private equity. And I think one of the mistakes is that you just treat it as if it was a private equity asset class, but it isn't. So how can we make sense of that? Well, I came across quite a good book written by a guy called Sean Cook. This is what it looks like. And apparently Sean Cook is a pseudonym for this guy whose real name isn't actually Sean Cook. And he explains that he wrote the book under the pseudonym because it's too honest and too candid for him to really show who he really is. Although there's actually a photo of him here, so I don't know if that photo is actually of Sean Cook or is just a straw man who's been put there or lifted from the internet. I don't know. But it's a good book, and it's written really for somebody who's a private equity fund manager. The way it's written is really useful and resonates, because so many real estate books are written in such a turgid way which makes it incomprehensible. So in terms of the organization of the book, it's divided into a section on which is very useful, which is how you evaluate the different types of real estate. So what kind of buckets or categories do you put them in? And I think a lot of us in PE have a general idea, but this is really quite useful because it helps to crystallize and sharpen how you put it in the different buckets, such as office, retail, multifamily, and others. So that's one very useful part, and there's a whole chapter dedicated to how you can conceptualize the real estate, what buckets to put in. And that's pretty useful because it really helps you to really see it more clearly. Then we have some stuff about the GPs and fees. It's interesting to notice the carry system in real estate is more complex than that of private equity because you get waterfalls at multiple levels. So that's kind of an interesting new twist, which could be interesting for PE fund managers. There's something on how you model, which is fairly standard, and there's something on what are the key metrics in real estate, which is useful. But what's the other second part that's really useful, along with dividing up the real estate into the buckets, is how you have a real estate strategy. And this is where it's very different from private equity and more similar to fixed income, because basically what the book says is there's 4 types of strategies. One is so-called core, where you just invest in a ready-made building and earn a small yield, which an insurance company might do. Then there's a second strategy, which is called non-core, where you invest in a building maybe not quite the prime area of town. Then you have value-added strategy, where you have to do some work on the building. And then a kind of opportunistic strategy. And where you have the intersection between private equity style investing and real estate is in the value added to opportunistic, because that's where you can get the higher private equity type returns, which may materialize. And so as far as the book goes, I think it's a good read. It's short, it's 150 pages, it's well written, it's clear, succinct, it cuts through some of the bullshit. And so I would recommend that if you're a PE fund manager and you want to get a good, sharp overview of private equity to put it in the context of your own PE investment strategy, this is the book to get.